Welcome to Diaspora Digital Media, DDM's presentation unveiling UNESCO's groundbreaking documentary on the general history of Africa Volume X. In a world where narratives often neglect the depth and complexity of African civilizations, UNESCO's General History of Africa series stands as a beacon of scholarly excellence and cultural preservation. Volume X, in particular, embarks on a journey through pivotal moments in Africa's past, offering a comprehensive examination of its socio-political, economic, and cultural evolution. As we embark on this exploration, we will uncover the untold stories of ancient empires, the flourishing of art and literature, and the interconnectedness of African societies with the wider world. Through meticulous research and compelling storytelling, UNESCO's documentary sheds light on the resilience, innovation, and enduring legacy of African civilizations. Join us as we unravel the mysteries of Africa's past, challenge preconceived notions, and celebrate the vibrant tapestry of cultures that have shaped the continent. Through this presentation, we aim to inspire dialogue, foster understanding, and champion the importance of preserving and sharing Africa's rich heritage for generations to come. We are excited to announce that DDM will be reviewing Volume X on a weekly basis, providing in-depth analysis, insights, and discussions on each episode. We invite our viewers and subscribers to anticipate our weekly reviews, engaging with us in this ongoing exploration of Africa's history and its relevance to the present day. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey as we delve into UNESCO's documentary on the general history of Africa Volume X.
Introduction and concept of diaspora and its uses as intellectual capital in Black communities. In 2003, the Brazilian government collaborated with UNESCO to provide educational institutions with teaching material on the history of Africa. In 2013, Brazil financed General History of Africa projects, which comprised History of Africa and its diaspora. This initiative by Brazil is because 56% of its population are Afro-descendants, which is because it was the last American nation to abolish slave trade. The Brazilian Education Ministry and UNESCO's partnership is approved by Law 10.639/2003. The law established guidelines and made it mandatory for Brazilian schools to adopt his teaching of African history and Afro-Brazilian culture. The introduction of African history and Afro-Brazilian culture was to combat racism and challenge the myth of racial democracy. This is a way to rescue Africans and their descendants from invisibility and distorted history presented in national narratives that tend to present Africa as a homogeneous human and cultural territory there by ignoring its diversity. This change was really important to introduce new knowledge and break away from the standard national narrative which marginalized the African contribution to Brazilian society. The teaching of Africa's history and its diaspora became essential for combating racism and promoting democracy. Black movements and anti-racist organizations played a significant role in this struggle, also Afro-descendants worldwide who demand a monumentary work on Africa's diaspora. Concept of diaspora and its uses as intellectual capital in Black community. African diasporas are communities formed by Africans who were moved away from the African continent, mostly by forcible means, to other parts of the world. The diaspora occurred in waves over a long period of time and affected many regions like Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Oceania, and especially America. These migrations were involuntary and were due to reasons such as slavery or colonization, which led to formation of communities of people with African ancestry all around the world who share common experiences and histories. Despite the significant contribution of enslaved Africans in various life spheres, the memory of Africans has been erased from national narratives presented through textbooks and public monuments museums, which deny their heritage in different countries worldwide. However, Black movements are building a counter-hegemonic narrative to highlight their contribution to global civilization. The first writings were produced by Africans in exile, outside and inside of the continent of Africa. individuals established their humanity through writing. They include Ahmad Baba al-Timbukti, 1556–1627, who wrote Miraj al-Suyudi, 1616. Kwada Equiano and Muhammad Gardo Bakwakwa, whose autobiographies show sophisticated intellect of enslaved Africans in America. In the 19th century, the writers of the African diaspora include Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Antenor Furman, Henry Sylvester Williams, Joaquin Maria Marchadu de Assis, Luis Gama, and Maria Firmina dos Reis. These are men and women who placed slavery emancipation and post-emancipation tie-in at the center of their concerns. In 20th century, intellectual production of these things continued throughout the diaspora with keywords such as Pan-Africanism in America, Hermioneizers in Haiti, Negritude in France and Caribbean, Negrismo in Cuba, in addition to decolonization in Africa and civil rights movement in several places. African diaspora thinking developed over time from people with connections to Africa living outside Africa. It is not academic, it came from real-life experiences, historical, cultural, and political processes carried out by members of the African diaspora. Global Africa beyond the Black Atlantic. Africa, a continent situated east of the Atlantic and home to about 18%, the second largest of the world's population. The continent is particularly important for its unique and diverse cultural identities and can boast of having developed fabulous civilizations, which have spanned several centuries. Yet, its inhabitants have historically been subjected to certain trajectories, natural and man-made, which forced them to disperse across the globe. Today, the African population is scattered beyond the shores of Africa and has come to be known as Africans in the diaspora. But one might be curious about the various perspectives and theories surrounding these events. One consideration captures the concept of blackness among Africans globally. The old belief was that blackness was a function of scientific or biological discovery. In her text titled Blackness Beyond the United States, Understanding the New Diasporic Definitions, Michelle M. Wright leads us to debunk the myth about the origin of African blackness. In her assessment, the concept of blackness was invented by 18th-century white European politicians and philosophers who, as they created these categories, simultaneously created homogeneity between blackness and inferiority. She pursues some of the historical ways by which scholars and movements have contested these definitions over time and have sought to redefine blackness for positive application. Her discussion takes us through the ideas of those who showed how the black body has been racialized, from W.E. Du Bois to Frantz Fanon to Hortense Spillers. Wright, by discussing the contributions of the scholars, presented various approaches to the reconstruction of blackness. One of these approaches was blackness through modernity. Contrary to the white views of African inferiority, these scholars have established a positive relationship between blackness and modernity, insisting on black pride over shame and on the right of black men to claim their birthright as citizens and active participants in the modern world. Organization of Volume X. Volume X is divided into 3 sections. The first section, Redefining Global Africanity and Blackness, is coordinated by Carol Boyce Davies. It explores how Africans and people of African descent have been perceived throughout history, from antiquity to contemporary times. This section is divided into 2 subsections. Race, Location, Diaspora and Global Blackness. This subsection features contributions on various historical and contemporary realities concerning different fields of knowledge and regions, including the United States, Ancient Egypt, North Africa, Latin America, South Asia, and China. Global Africanity and the African Diaspora. This subsection is dedicated to new research on African transnationalisms and diasporas, feminist epistemologies in global Africa, the Black queer diaspora, discriminatory rhetoric in the Arab Muslim world, and indigeneity. The second section, coordinated by Vanaclia Silva Santos, is structured around 6 themes. The formation of communities. This theme covers voluntary and involuntary movements in the eastern and western Indian Ocean, as well as the creation of Black communities in Europe, the Indian Ocean region, the west and east coasts of Africa, and the Americas. Resistance. This theme explores the various forms of resistance among Africans and those of their descendants who faced enslavement or other forms of oppression and exploitation in and outside Africa. The first section is about the general history of Africa and its diaspora. The second section is about the history of Africa and its diaspora, which focuses on cultural resistance and community formation among Africans and their diaspora. The third section is about the life stories of Africans and Afro-descendants who were victims of slavery and the slave trade. The fourth section is about the different types of labor performed by Africans, besides work in mines and on plantations. It also discusses the technologies Africans brought from their places of origin to the New World. And, finally, the last subsection covers the return of Africans and their descendants from specific diaspora territories to specific locations in Africa. Here are the subsections. Diasporic forms of religion. The languages spoken in Africa and their presence in the lexicons of European languages and in music and other performance traditions. The different types of labor performed by Africans, besides work in mines and on plantations. It also discusses the technologies Africans brought from their places of origin to the New World. The return of Africans and their descendants from specific diaspora territories to specific locations in Africa. The subsection focuses on the various ways Africans and their descendants preserved and transmitted their cultural heritage through religious practices, languages, and technologies. Here are the specific aspects of cultural resistance discussed in the subsection. Diasporic forms of religion. This refers to the ways in which Africans adapted their religious practices to new environments and contexts in the diaspora. This could involve incorporating elements of local religions or creating new religious traditions that blended African and European or American influences. Languages spoken in Africa and their presence in the lexicons of European languages and in music and other performance traditions. This subsection likely explores how African languages have influenced the development of European and American languages, as well as how African languages have been preserved and transmitted through music and other cultural performances. This Volume X discusses how to build alternative knowledge regarding Africans and Afro-descendants from the knowledge produced in the diasporas. The author argues that we should start with Africa and consider the multiple experiences of Africans and their capacity to adapt to new and adverse conditions. The author also argues that the contributions in this volume confirm that the discussion today must go beyond the famous scale of intensity of Africanisms. The author goes on to discuss the importance of considering the role of social movements in creating a new historical memory for the societies where they exist. The author concludes by stating that they hope this book will be a useful, if modest, pedagogical tool for achieving these goals through the teaching of history in schools and universities.